Okay, we're gonna get this shindig going, just casually chat it up. But
Sweet.
oh, it didn't give me the countdown. Well, whatever. We'll just dive into it.
I got a countdown.
You got a countdown? Well, good. I'm glad at least one of us
I
did.
pay for the premium, so
Obviously. Long time overdue. I am here with the one and only Nathan Putnam. Welcome to the SIGEP Success Series. As most of you know, I do this for my own self-interest right now. I want to know where these brothers are at, what they're doing, what they're up to. Learn a little bit over the last, 10 or 15 years. Nathan, I'm going to Nate. That's just weird to call you Nate.
Call me whatever it is.
Yeah, Nate is one of the brothers I keep up with pretty regular. But I think for a lot of you that haven't kept up with him, you'd be interested to know what his journey's been. But also for the undergrads, he is in an entrepreneur spot, owns his own business, and we'll dive into that. But one little bit of business, homecoming coming up. You can make it to homecoming. I know there's going to be a bunch of alumni there, so hopefully everybody can make it out and see us at the tailgate. So forth. So put that in your calendar. I think it's October 8th. I believe so. So, anyways, just wanted to throw that one out there because we're getting close to that.
Good plug. Good plug.
You know what? The thing is, Aggies, those first two games, Alabama, I expect to get beat up. Weaver? Come on,
and we're pushing 8 quarters without an offensive touchdown. So maybe it's like a sign of like the shifts, right? Like the macro phases. We'll go back to be really good at basketball.
That was it. I'm like, basketball season is gonna just be killing it, and that's gonna be exciting. But no, we'll see what happens this season. But I'm excited for the football, the homecoming game, either or. Go Utah State against BYU too. We'll see if we can knock them out of that top 25. Okay, enough about that. Nate, holy crap, man! So good to see you. I talk to you often, message you a lot. I don't visually see you enough, that's for sure.
You got to get north, man.
I know. And what about with the undergrads? How do you get involved? I know you're up at Utah State every once in a while. Any of the undergrads have you interacted with?
Me and my partner sit on the founders board for the Entrepreneurship Center, so we go up twice a year for that. And then usually like another 2 or 3 times to either speak at a marketing class or an entrepreneurship class, or we've been doing some work with the Data Analytics Solutions Center, and I went up there twice last year.
Okay.
But haven't really connected. I haven't done a good job of staying connected with the undergrads in the chapter. Just kind of fell out of touch. You know a few people, and then they graduate, and then it's like, I don't even know who to talk to or call. I'm on campus, but I have nobody. Yeah.
No, and I get it. And that's hopefully this kind of becomes a liaison. So if people see you around campus or see your face on a poster, the brothers will jump at it.
Yeah, and if I could to speak to that real quick, I think all of us my age and around, I'm probably putting words in your mouth here too, but we all want to be the alumni that we didn't have, right? When the chapter came back, there was like really old guys that had graduated in the 70s, and then nobody. Like there was nobody that was, in the midst of their career or, was even close in terms of age. And I mean, that was something that I felt like could have really helped the chapter. And, you obviously doing this, I want to do my share as well. So, I mean, don't ever hesitate to the undergrads. Don't ever hesitate to reach out, whatever we can do to help. Let's network, let's connect. Happy to share, lessons and everything.
And I had just a short conversation with another alumni and I want to bring that up on the title of this and talking to you and talking to just any of the alumni who've had the opportunity. I call it the SIGEP Success Series. And I had a brother say, well, you don't want to talk to me because I'm not successful. I'm like, wait, what's your definition of success? And it actually made me look back to something like I have kind of some personal affirmations that I try to ideally daily, but, weekly, monthly check out. And I started this 7 years ago, something like that. And my first line in there is like true success and what that equals. And to me, this is what it equals. And this is what I define the SIGEP Success Series. And it's loving my family, loving my work, living my purpose, being present and grateful for every moment.
Yeah. Every day above ground is a good day, man.
Yeah. So success isn't money. It isn't a title. It's just, are you loving what you're doing? Are you living a purpose? And that, I think, with the Balanced Man program was a big thing for me, is like, I need to have a purpose. I need to be balancing all things and so forth. So, what you do, working with the undergrads, doing your own business, juggling family, church, everything, that is something we're going to hit on. But let's just dive into it. I want to ask you, and I know this, but some of the other guys, where are you currently? Tell us a quick description, family, and where you're at, what you do, and then we're going to dive back into your past a little bit.
Okay. Currently live in beautiful West Kaysville, and work in Farmington. Me and two business partners run a business and own a building that we operate the business out of, called Monumetric. We're in the ad tech side, specifically in yield operations. So we manipulate auctions. That's what we do. Got 60 plus employees here in the U.S. and another 15, 20 overseas, India, Philippines, and teams there. Happily married for 16 years to Monique, who I met day on the quad at the SIGEP table, sitting next to Tag and Tony. And she came over and was looking for a booth because Shane Russell had just come home from his mission, who became chapter president like 3 years later. He just came home from his mission, wanted to be in a fraternity, but didn't want like the typical fraternity experience. Wanted, really what he was looking for was a Balanced Man program. He just didn't know it existed, and neither did we before we heard of it. But she came by the table and said hi to Tony and Tag, and she left, and I was like, "You guys know that girl?" So I got her number from them on the down low, and then didn't ask her out until we had a formal. Anyways, been happily married to her. We have 4 wonderful, bright, brilliant children. Oldest is 15, just started high school. She's a sophomore at Farmington High. And then youngest is Bennett, who is 5, who just started kindergarten, Snow Horse Elementary. That's us.
Very nice. Very nice. So why did you end up at Utah State? What?
I came over from a mission. So I graduated young. I was 17 years old when I graduated, and then worked at an arcade, worked on the go-karts, just kind of hung out, got some construction jobs, and ended up going on an LDS mission when I turned 19. So I didn't do any college before then, came home and was offered a really good job and just made a lot of money my first year and a half home. So like school wasn't that attractive of an alternative. Then I went to Dixie for 2 years and almost chased a girl to BYU. Fortunately for me, that didn't work out. And my sister had come up to Utah State. She loved it. She worked in the admissions office. I was fortunate enough to get an ambassador scholarship and served 2 years as a transfer ambassador. And then third year ran and was elected as the exec VP of what was called then ASUSU, which is where I met you and Nick and all the other third floor rats. And that was really, like, I had some other options. Like I'd been accepted. I got a scholarship to BYU. I had some other things, some other options, but really like was looking for like a prototypical like public university experience, and Utah State's the only one where it's a residential public institution. It's the only one in Utah. Like everybody else is either a commuter or a private. And so to me, it was like it's the only real college in Utah, I guess.
Yeah. By the way, you said Dixie. Rest in peace. I'm down here, so I'm in St. Louis. Yeah. No, you can't Dixie. You can't say Dixie anymore. It's Utah Tech. It's been very interesting to live here during that time. So, okay, yeah, and you came up, and yeah, Nate was one of those third floor officers, and we all kind of got hit up with nationals. Nationals at that time, we were just doing our thing, and we had nationals come out and start basically reaching out and saying, "Hey, you guys need to all meet with us." So, tell us about SIGEP and why you joined.
Yeah, so it was my junior year, first year on campus, was an ambassador. Ryan Jacobson was the national recruiter that came out, and he spoke to, I think, ASUSU, like all the college senators, and then came to the ambassador group. And they had a little pamphlet, and it it was tailor cut just for me. I went to college. I chose to study philosophy. I've always been a little weird, right? I have my own view of the world. And I remember, like, you wrote down, like, your, like, vision statements and things. Like, I remember deciding to go to college because I wanted to be somebody, not know something. And so, like, that was, like, really a purpose, like purpose of me going and getting, like, a higher education was to become a better Nate. And so, you know, I chose philosophy on purpose, was just kind of starting getting into reading some philosophers. And at the very top of that little marketing light blue piece of paper that had like pizza and all the details on the third floor, there was a quote by Socrates that said, the unexamined life is not worth living. And I was like, son of a bitch. I got to talk to these guys. You know, I obviously like had heard of like that there was some positive things to fraternities in terms of like networking and being around like-minded individuals, accountability, the brotherhood, and like, so it was interesting. And one of my buddies from high school actually went to Utah State, and he was a Sigma Chi. When I got up there, he didn't go on a mission, but he was a couple years ahead of me. And like, you know, I remember going to the Sigma Chi house, going to activities and stuff, and it just wasn't my scene. So
I get that. All right, so you are one of the founding fathers of our recharter, or of our chapter, recolonization.
Yeah.
And
I don't know what the term is.
and yeah, philosophy. Tell me a little bit more. Let's dive into your SIG up time, because you and I basically are there. Well, you jumped in right day one, and I dragged a little bit, but you took a lead position in the sense of like you were on the exec board that first semester.
No, I was VP MemDev.
Okay.
So I remember like sitting and talking with Ryan, him explaining what what everything was, dues, and I'm asking all my questions and kind of going through it. And like I never knew what entrepreneurship was, but like I like to build stuff. I always liked to be involved. Was that way in high school. I was fortunate enough to go to a really, really small school where if you could walk, you had to play two sports. Like you were recruited. Otherwise, we didn't have a football team or we didn't have a baseball team. Right? Like if you could do anything, you had to be involved. Otherwise, like the school fell apart. So it was like, that was kind of my mentality growing up. And it just sounded really fun to like try to start something out of nothing. And I think I was second or third of like the interviews, and I was in then. And I think Nick Robbins, and maybe Duke DeStefano was before that, but I mean, I sat in with Ryan on the next round of interviews. I interviewed Josh Cook and a bunch of others, and I totally forgot your question. So
no, if I remember correctly, you were pin number 1002, and you're so ticked off that you didn't get that 10 that 1,000.
Yeah, I was like over by 3 or 2 or something. Yeah.
So with your time at SIGA, call it. Obviously, this is kind of more to the undergrads. What are some standout moments with SIGA for you during your time?
Yeah, I mean, I've watched some of the other interviews, and like I agree with what everybody said, right? But to me, I think the part that I was always the most proud of is the amount of service that we did, and how we would just find other clubs and organizations on campus and just blow up their events. So like think like the Savvy office, right, where they've got a committee of like 4 students and a paid professional, and they're trying to put on this event. We roll up with 30 dudes that are all connected, all involved, all with cell phones, all with, roommates and networks. And we're like, we're doing this thing. And we bring out 100 people. We just blow their event up. Like that always made me like the most proud, because it wasn't about us, right? It wasn't about like, look at us, we're SIGEP, we do all these great things. It was like, these guys are doing what we believe, and we're going to use everything that we have to promote their cause, right? Like ribbons around the trees. Like I just like, you name all of these things that we just showed up to. Those were my favorite moments, right? And we were lucky to have brothers such as yourself that were involved in like organizations and traditions. I don't even know what it's called now, but like, that was like my favorite thing. Was like, we weren't in it for any like benefits back to us other than the opportunity for rigor and effort in living beliefs. Like We met in like the garage or something of Doc Davis's at the Health and Wellness Center. It was like the extra overflow room.
Back overflow.
For years. That was the only place I ever had a chapter meeting that wasn't Doc's house. There's no house. There's nothing else. It was literally like we have our business meetings, and it was like, who and what causes are we going to get behind on campus, and let's plan and let's go get it.
Yeah.
But like when I think back, those are my favorite times.
Absolutely. No, and the amount of influence, and it's not so much as far as like self-focused influence. It's true. We would find opportunities to go out and create some really cool experiences. And we did that with everybody else. I think specifically, you joined for philosophy reasons. I joined. Also, I lived with 4 other Pikes my freshman year. And I went to their rush week. I went to Sigma Chi rush week. And it was just what are we in it for? And that Balanced Man program was the most attractive thing because it was, we're here to build balanced men, not for the parties. And that was real. That was something, it was attractive, but we had our own events and those were parties. And we kind of proved ourselves. And that was super exciting to see camaraderie with our guys.
Yeah. Well, and it became like a recruiting tool as well, right? Like that's how you get the good guys, is they're the guys that are doing those things anyways. And so when you have 20 brothers show up to their organization's service event, like they're going to take a second look and be like, what are these guys about? Like, what are they doing? And it's just like, we believe in what you guys are doing. You're making this college a better place. And that's all we care about. Yeah. Like that's what I'm the most proud of when I think back.
Okay. Tell me your funnest, just the craziest, wildest, I guess. I've had somebody say, who was it? It was we often would have unsanctioned SIG-Up events. Right. So gotta be careful which event we shared.
I know. I mean, the unsanctioned Halo nights were always fun, right? We ended up my last 2 years, we ended up renting a duplex specifically because we could run 4 Ethernet cords along the outside of the house so we could play 16, 8v8, hang them high on Halo.
3 floors of each side and just off.
Yeah. I mean, that was amazing memories, right? And just a lot of fun. Front row of the basketball games. Like it wasn't all SIG-Ups there, but like those were all a bunch of my buddies. And, you were there and a bunch of others. Just like showing up to everything and just trying to make everybody's college experience better. Not just mine, right? That it was about like being the change you wish to see at Utah State and doing it, right? It's like, I wish we had more activities that were this and this. It's like, well, then do it. That's what I gravitated towards, like the organization's traditions, is because it was like, we want more of this. Like I think Nick mentioned like the Have a Heart Tree, right? Like it's like, I want something like that too. Like, let's do it.
Yeah.
Like that was just fun.
Mm-hmm. Right? You and one of the memories that specifically outside of the front row basketball games that we basically broke ankles going down every game, just running down. You have some art background, and we painted our Balanced Man logo. And it was the funniest thing. We got the spot right. This is week of homecoming, and we got to paint, and we were like right next to, I think, the Alumni Association. They always get the main intersection, and we were like right next to them. And we didn't really follow the rules, and we did it. I swear it was bigger than their logo. And you had this gridded out. You're like, okay, guys, I got a plan. We're gonna grid this out. You take this section. You take this, and the thing was gorgeous, and it was as big as the main intersection and twice as well done. And you were just that director, just kind of sending everybody which way and be like, you do this, and hit it.
Yeah, but that was like the default mode, right? Like everybody just showed up ready to work and ready to be involved. And so like we would just storm and cool, this is what we're doing. And then the year after that, we did like the giant skull. Remember the big bull skull with like the letters below it?
Yep.
Like that was a riot. Like Troy and Dewey were also like pretty artistic. And so we just like collabed on it. And then we would just have people filling in. Yeah, man, that was a good time. That was good. That was a riot.
One of those memories I remember, and Google Map, like it was when Google Maps was coming out, and I swear it took a picture, and I remember you could see our logo when you zoom in, it was for 5+ years. It was there. It was great.
We always meant well. Weren't the greatest to follow them in every rule perfectly.
Because we're like, oh, we can go the entire length of the street. Let's do it. Then the next year, no, guys, it's specifically.
We were like, you, and you. See how much paint we can get donated. And I think Austin or somebody ended up getting like 30 gallons of white from Home Depot or something. Just donated.
Yep.
So we were like, paint it all white.
Oh, man. Okay. You graduated, and then what happened? How'd you get to Monumetric? How'd you get to be a business owner, running all these employees?
With a degree in philosophy, so my first job out of college was at a golf course, which is dead true. And then I worked at the warehouse at R.C. Willey, and then became a delivery driver at R.C. Willey, and then was out on a late delivery to the vice president the regional vice president to Conica Minolta, and me and my partner were happy and chipper and hustling it. And he was like, "Man, you guys work hard," and we're like, "It's what life's for, right?" And he was like, "You guys got to come talk to my sales guys." And I was like, "Maybe you should fire your sales guys, hire us." And he's like, "You want to come in for an interview?" And I was like, "Sure." So I showed up like the next Monday, and I was. The only other time he'd seen me, I was in full delivery gear after like a 12-hour day delivering furniture. And anyways, I had done sales before in high school and then during college as well. So I had some sales experience. So I got hired on as the DTS rep for Conica Minolta and did that for a couple of years and was pretty successful. And then a friend of mine from Utah State had just left his teaching job to work at a small startup called Zag. And I took a huge pay cut, jumped over to Zag. I mean, I was their first like retail sales rep that like was going after like inline big box retail. And so we started the sales team from nothing, it was like 99% online at the time. I think all of North America the year before I got there did like $7,000 in retail sales. And so I did that for a couple of years and really like as it started to blow up and just like thought it was really cool because I'd had tons of jobs, but never one where like the culture was like so approachable and it was something that like, hey, like if you kind of like take certain parts of the business serious and then take a whole bunch of the other ones not so serious, like you can have a really good time. And I like the people that like got the culture, I don't know, it just like got me this bug that it was like, that would be really cool to like build a company like that. Or one that, like I always believe I could do things better. So I was like, I could do it better than that. But never taken an accounting class. I mean, my highest college quantitative class was deductive logic. So like MBA was pretty far out of reach just because there's all these prereqs. And my little brother Alex had just done the 1-year MBA at Utah State. And he was like, dude, they have a summer program where you can knock out all your prereqs in the summer. He's like, it's expensive and it's really hard, but like summer, school year, and you're done. So Monique and I had made the decision that we were going to go that route. She had just started grad school as well, doing a master's in speech pathology. And so we're like, cool, we're living in the mother-in-law's basement. We're going to get through grad school and we're going to make a go at this thing. And fortunately, while I was at Utah State doing an MBA, started a business, which eventually turned into this. It was a social marketing agency, and we were doing a lot of really what turned into influencer marketing. It didn't really have a name back then, but like 2011, 2012, like we were literally convincing businesses to get a Facebook page. It's like, you should be on Facebook and you should start talking to customers.
Wait, you got to pause there. You were also building websites.
Yes. Yes.
No, I'm gonna take a small tangent because actually I love you and what you taught me. What you taught me because at that time I started as director of sales with my old company and we had a horrible website and I'm like, I need something new. I started looking into it and you're like, hey, we build websites. Okay, perfect, mate. Build this website. And this is the funny thing. And it was $4,000. Like, you'll build this website, and we gave you $4,000. And then there's always these little tweaks. Kind of websites, you always have to make little tweaks. And I remember going back and forth with your partner Kevin. Kevin, we got to change this. We got to change this. And everything would take 72 hours. Like, why is everything taking so long? Like, this is frustrating. Like, it should literally go on and change the words. And you're like, no, 72 hours. And then finally, you said, you're like, Oz, go get a VA to do this. Like, they're cheaper. That's what we do. And I'm like, wait a second. so I paid you a bunch of money and you went and hired somebody for like 10%. You're like, yeah, $4,000. I think we paid like $1,000 and had somebody build it for you. But
Yep.
and I'm like, wait, so you just, okay, but that is business, right? You did that. And it made me completely change the way I look about how I'm doing my business and life now. If it wasn't for that lesson, I would not be in the position I am right now. And so like, I love that. But at the time I was like, wait, so you didn't even build the website? Like, you guys outsource this stuff. You're just this middleman. I love it. I love it because, again, that's the hustle.
That guy we outsourced to, we still work with him.
Oh, really?
His name's Sushil, lives in India. We still work with him. We worked with him since 2011.
Awesome.
Still a great dude.
Yeah. So, yes, you had a marketing company that would build websites but also do Facebook ads.
Well, was that a necessity, right? Because we could build like these great social funnels and we could drive a ton of traffic. But then, like, if the website's not eligible to, like, get...
Sorry, I'm going to say this because that was just me giving a memory. I'm going to make this a lesson. Guys, that was a lesson. Think smarter, not harder. Nate Putnam will teach you how to do it. Outsource things. It's smart. It's like I said, that lesson makes me very happy today. And it's so, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it just was out of necessity. Kevin could build websites. It just wasn't scalable, right?
It's time.
And then it's expensive. So, we actually went through a number of firms and individuals to kind of help fill that need because it was just out of necessity, right? Mm-hmm. So we ended up, like I said, doing a bunch of influencer marketing. We functioned as a bolt-on research arm for a couple of VC firms down in Salt Lake, and where we would do all the due diligence because, we had MBAs, like we could do like pro formas and all of like the really rigorous stuff that investors like to see, right? Mm-hmm. A lot of it's BS, but some of it's decent, and so they hired us and we would, basically like vet all of these investment opportunities for them, write up a whole proposal, write up a whole like plan. And then if they pulled the trigger on it, we would get that as a client day one. So it was really great for us to be like totally integrated in that space. They would pay us for our time. And then if they ended up funding it, so like we would do a really good analysis because we'd want them to fund the business because it's a whole nother client for us. Mm-hmm. And we just started hitting home runs with the right alignment of like the right influence, the right following. And this is like super rudimentary now, but back then, like nobody's talking about this. Nobody was doing it. And then as we started like talking to more people that owned and operated like social followings and websites, understanding their business, it just became really interesting. They're like, we love campaigns, right? We love paid campaigns, but I have to work to make money. And like, I don't really like to do that. And it's also not forecastable. Like I don't have like meat and potatoes money, right? It's feast, famine, feast, famine, feast, famine. I either have like 20 campaigns or 0 campaigns, and I don't know what I'm going to make next month. And it's really hard to build a business that way. And I was like, well, how else are you monetizing your business? And like, well, we run display ads, and I just know that I'm getting ripped off. Google takes all this money and I, don't really know how it works. Like, that's a pretty interesting problem. So we started working with a local group that owned a couple big websites and just took it to task as a problem to solve. Just thought it was really, really interesting, super naive, no training in the space, just A/B tests, really rudimentary scientific method stuff, just test, retest, feedback loops. And we're able to raise their yield by, 30, 40% over the first couple months. And then they told all their friends and we had like 500 requests for our service. And we're like, maybe we should start a business. This seems like a business. It could be a business. And we've literally been running after that ever since. So that's how I got to Monumetric.
So I want you to brag a little for a moment with Monumetric, because this is something that blew me away. And this was probably 5 years ago. You told me numbers, like how many impressions. So again, a couple of our friends don't even know what you do still. Like you've explained it some ways, but can you explain what Monumetric, you build ads and data, but how many impressions? And that's where I was blown away with how much interaction, like micro interaction that you guys are a part of. That data.
Yeah, I mean, the easiest way to think about what we do is we're kind of like supply chain management and day traders, right? That's really like what we do. So all of these ads are sold in second price auctions through like a tiered system. And, the incentives aren't aligned. Publishers want to sell it for really high, and the people that want to buy it for really low, but they're willing, and that's where the game is, so to speak. We right now transact, I don't know, between 3 and 4 billion impressions every month. That's what we end up selling. We have a number that go unsold because we make more money, and then we just do what makes the most money. So I think like the part that I'm probably the most proud of is we're very unromantic about what we do. Right? It's really like we don't do anything because anybody says so, or that's the way we've always done it. We're always trying to find something better and beat ourselves. And it really is like tiny incremental changes compounded over several years. It's a pretty defensible moat. And that's really all that we're doing. So it's like no like giant home runs, right? We didn't make one hack that we've been riding for 4 years. It's like, oh, today we're 20% up year over year. So that's because all of these things we've done just this in the last 12 months compound into that. If that makes sense. Yeah,
no, but 3 to 4 billion impressions in a single month, and that data and that understanding, that's crazy. That's crazy to think that you guys are interacting in that sense. And that's something I know you've now partnered a little bit with Utah State and the data analytics. And you want to explain a little bit more on that, or is that no? I don't know if you can.
I mean, happy to talk about it, right? We hired Dr. Tyler Bruff. He's on sabbatical this year from Utah State. He was in the finance and econ department. Now he's moved over to the data analytics department. And so he's on sabbatical, and he works directly with us this year. We hired two graduate data scientists coming out of that program, and then a third kind of like lead architect developer. And so we kind of have like this 4 team, and they report directly to me, and I work directly with them. We're trying to build in all of the intelligence and everything that we have into an automated system. So, it's in business. I'm sure you know this, like everybody in business right now talks about AI and machine learning a lot like people used to talk about sex in junior high, right? Like everybody talks about it. Nobody's doing it, right? Nobody. And so like, a bunch of if-then statements is not machine learning and AI. So we're like really trying to build like an actual engine to automate a lot of what we do, and then we want to package it up.
Fantastic.
So that's what we're doing.
That's cool.
Yeah,
that's cool. And
I love myself. Sorry, go ahead.
No, just right now in the business world, data is king right now. That Meta, Google, they know data is everything, and so the more data you can understand, gather, process, and then spit back out, that relates to a lot of the future of where we're going and what we're doing.
Yeah, well, and it's
fascinating.
Like even like my kids, like my oldest just started high school and she's in the programming class, and it's okay, but like there's always going to be a lag, right? Like high school is not going to teach the types of programming that need to be taught. They're going to be several years behind. Same thing, even at college, right? Even in the university, it's still a little archaic. And I did not study any programming. I'm a philosophy major, and then I have an MBA. Like that's like all the way over here from programming. Worked with developers, worked with engineers, software engineers, and other things. And then finally, just like I can't just be an outsider to this world anymore. And so I started teaching myself SQL. We hired a consultant to come in and meet with the Yield team for a week. And after a week, like I was a rudimentary Python developer, right? And now I'm kind of like proficient. Right? Like I can build some cool stuff, but it's like kind of like you just have to keep learning and adapting. And I think that like programming language, having some ability to code even rudimentary things, whether it's front end, back end, I think just should be something that everybody should consider, right? $20 on Udemy and 20 hours of your time, over the, 20 hours every month for four or 5 months, like you got a decent skill set. And you can apply that everywhere. Like it's all about automation. Like you can talk to a computer and you can have it do stuff that other people have to do manually. So,
that is a value. The older I get, the more I realize it's just what goes back to the outsource, right? Like or outsource to a computer, figure it out, so you don't even have to pay somebody and have the computer do it. These are the things that oftentimes we. You look up 10 years later and you're like, shoot, I should have done that. I was on it.
Right.
I knew thought about that, but I never did anything. So it's taking those, how you talk about not only your business, but how you just explain that process. It's like, take the little bits of time each day. So with you, I guess this goes to the undergrad. Would you recommend with this career, like, would you have done anything different? Would you have taken different steps? You talk about programming, but it's like, who knew back when 15 years ago that computers were going to be more part of your life?
Yeah, I mean, that's a hard question to answer. I mean, certainly starting a business when you have 2 kids is not the smart route. You have a lot more to lose at that point, right? I wish during my undergrad it would have been something I would have really started tinkering with. But also, like, the flip side of that is you learn a lot of lessons doing that, but you also just don't know enough, right? You have to be in a market 5 to 8 years to even disrupt it or even know where and how to play. So, like, I think starting like a service-based business, like in your undergrad, I think is a really good idea, especially if you can find outsource partners and you can be a connector and you can keep a bit of a spread, right? Like, that's a decent business, and you start to learn, like, cash is king, right? Like, you're running a business off a spreadsheet, right? At the end of the day, right, if ending balance is bigger than beginning balance, like, you're doing something right. Like, even just like those rudimentary fundamentals you're not, like, people will talk about them in a business book or an entrepreneurship book, but it's totally different to, like, live them. And you start to get, like, a really good nose for BS around business and opportunities. And then when salespeople start to call you, try to sell you stuff, right? But, like, I mean, I think my biggest thing, right, and this is personal, but, like, as you go through your career, you can either make your time really valuable or you can make an asset base really valuable, right? You can go and be like a high-powered lawyer and you're worth $300-400 an hour, which is amazing, right? But you're only making money when you're working. There is no, like, day off. You have to be there. Like, those are fixed on your location and where your attention is. Where if you are building an equity base, whether it's equity ownership in a company or through different assets, like, that's where real wealth is, where you can go on vacation, you can sleep in, you can have a sick day, you can do all of these things. Not saying that you can put your feet up on the desk because it'll die, right? Like, you have to work, but it takes a lot of the pressure off of, like, you have to be here. You're only making money when you're present. So that would be, like, my plug for entrepreneurship. It's a bear, and I have, like, 40 books you need to read before you start a business that I've collected and have tons of scar tissue and scars to show and stories to tell. But so any undergrad that's certainly interested in that would love to sit and chat with you. I would love to share anything that I know.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. It's just entrepreneurship. It can beat you up, but also it can be extremely rewarding if you do it right.
What's pros and cons, right? Like, you've had good partners, you've had bad partners, right? Both of us are that way. Yep. And we've learned a lot about humans, a lot about ourselves, a lot about the limitations of mercy and justice and forgiveness. Like, you learn those things, right? And that's like real life. That's like real life. And it's your family, and it's your family's livelihood.
You couldn't even take a college course on that and understand. Like, when the emotion is real and it's there and it's your livelihood and your wife saying, "What the hell's going on at work?" And you're like,
Yeah, we don't know.
No, I don't think anybody would voluntarily sign up for that, but you do have to just jump in.
Well, and I think that if you have, like, you've always been a bit more of a solopreneur than I have. And I honestly don't know how you do it. I don't think I could. Like, without my partners, Kyle and Kevin, like, I'd have gone crazy. Like, I definitely would have thrown in the towel. But we balance each other out, right? When I have a bad day, one of them notices, they're there to pick me up, vice versa. Right. And, like, we always try to have, like, one thing we say to each other is cooler heads prevail. And so we always, like, try to bring everybody down to, like, let's think about this logically. Let's try to check emotions. Let's leave those outside and let's talk through it. Because I'll, like, want to fight, right? I want to go Bunkerville on something. And I, like, want to start yelling and swearing at the cows and doing all the things that I grew up doing. And it's like, no, calm down and let's talk about it.
Yeah.
But, like, those relationships, right? Like, you have to be the type of person that deserves those relationships, right? You're not going to get anywhere in life people are dragging you all the way there from like a work ethic or an ethical standpoint, right?
Yeah, agreed. And props to thinking I'm a great solopreneur, because I'm not. This has been a rough year and a half, but it's
You're alive, aren't you?
I am alive.
Stay
I'm
above
alive.
ground, brother.
That's
Stay
right.
above ground.
So Nate, if money was an object right now, what would you do? If you had all the money you've ever needed, and you're like, I'm gonna retire, what would you do with your time?
I can honestly say it wouldn't be much different than what I'm doing now. I think like this, my life's never been about me, right? It's about us, and like the reward and the, I don't want to get like too sentimental or too cheesy, right? But like the fulfillment that I get from seeing others progress. Like my why is I work to prosper people. That's like what I do. That's why I feel like I'm on this earth, is I want other people to prosper. And in so doing, like it helps me. But like the only reason I try to learn anything, the only reason I try to read anything is so I can be in a better position to lift somebody, no matter what they need. And like, yeah, if I had all the money in the world, like I would probably hire more people here, right? Like we have some of our lead architect, for example, we hired him 6 years ago to answer the phones. And now he's, he's got to be in the top 1% of developers in the state. And he taught himself here, right? And like our whole team is that in process, right? Whether it's a, stay-at-home mom that just is going through a divorce and she's picking up new skills and is able to now like support her family because she learned enough here over the course of a couple of years that like she's on a salary and all of those things. Like it really, like I would just do this faster, maybe travel an extra 1 or 2 times with my kids, but like I have enough of a house. I have enough of an income. Like I want to live with richer people than I live around right now. They're already too hard to tolerate. But it is like it becomes like you start worrying about like how you're going to raise your kids, right? Because you work your whole life to give them everything you didn't have, but you also don't want to raise a-holes, right? You want them to be grateful and conscientious and considerate and loving and charitable and all of those things. And like, how do you balance that with giving them everything? Because that's why you work so hard.
Yeah.
But
you want them to have those opportunities, yet have earned those opportunities. Yet at the age of 10, how do they grasp that they've earned it?
You can't take effort out of the equation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I would buy a little bit more real estate if I had all the money in the world. Like that real estate engine would be a few years ahead of where it is now. But like, I'm having too much fun what I'm doing, man. Like it is a riot here. We have a good time.
Good. Anything in Costa Rica? Did you move forward on Costa Rica land?
No Costa Rica land.
So I'll consult you before you do. Let me know.
Okay. Yeah, I do. Totally. We are, I think the second week of October is what we're pacing to finish the income property in St. George. So, I got to come down and check it out.
Yes, you do.
Maybe we go get some Indian food together.
Let's do it. Where do you see yourself, Nate? You got, let's say, 5 years, because you still got a kindergarten. You're like me. Let's talk 10 years. Where do you see yourself in 10 years?
It's a great question. I mean, I want to be working in a business of some shape or form, whether it's, doing what I'm currently doing or something else. But I think what I'm the most interested in is like real change for society. I think there's something fundamentally broken with kind of like the hierarchy. I'm not going to go like total Marxist here, but like there's some real issues with like consolidation of, wealth and capital that have happened. And I think that there's some opportunity for disruption, especially in the tech space, where if you can put money in the hands of the people that are building it, they become the powerful ones and can actually impact the world, as opposed to like pay back the investor their 45x return. And the people that actually did the magic, lost their jobs or have to go find another job. I think that there's some room for disruption, and depending on what ends up happening here, if we grow, we scale, we spin off part of our business or whatever, like really, like I see myself involved in something like that, where whether it's like a mentorship program where we teach people skills and, you know, there's some form of agreement or build some type of community where we really can like lift people and then they're in a better spot and we can start like a movement around mutual aid.
So like an incubator, but actually one that's focused on the individuals rather than the exit before they even start a business.
Yeah. I mean, it's like a radical idea, right? That like the people that create the value keep the value. I mean, it's total like heresy in any business conversation, but it's like, oh yeah, these guys, like this is a 10x developer, they should keep 10x, right? And like that conversation doesn't happen with any business owner. I think to me, it just always feels off.
Oh, well, yeah, and I think we're living in a time where we definitely have seen peeked behind multiple curtains. You've got the biopics, right, of Theranos and WeWork and what was the other one? Uber. And you see these guys that have to please more the investors and to a point. Granted, some of those guys were assholes anyways. But the investors, it's like,
oh yeah,
we're not looking at business the way businesses should be ran. It takes time, like you've talked about. Like it's not okay. We're going to just pump money and then we're going to pump and dump, and we're going to walk away and 10x our returns. You lose out on all the people that were a part of the process, and they get a warped sense. Anybody that works with VCs, I feel like they get a warped sense of what a business and success is, and it's. I appreciate you saying like we take the people, we help grow them into something better. That's a huge benefit, and it's not like how much money can I make off of every employee. It is a messed up system.
If the only reason to create value is so you can extract it, you probably ought to reevaluate what you're doing in life. Not that VCs are evil, not that investors are evil, right? Like there's benevolence everywhere, and like don't paint anybody, any industry or any niche with a single brush. But like I care much more about humans than I do about money, and I think I always will. And like at the end of the day, right? Like you're not going to take any of it with you, so don't take it too seriously. And like try living your life for eulogy reasons, right? Like nobody shows up at a funeral and starts talking about zeros in a bank account. Nobody freaking cares because you're in the dirt. What is said is like, this guy was always a friend to me, and oh my gosh, they entered my life at a moment when I needed it, and it became an inflection point that brought me peace and well-being and safety. And now my children are blessed because I knew this person, right? Like live your life for those reasons, not for numero uno. Right? Like it's not about you. It's not about me, right? It's about us as a species trying to get better, right? And like we evolved over millions of years in like little tiny groups. And we learned through that evolution that, you know what, when we have abundance, when I have an extra kill or I grab some extra berries, I can't keep them. They won't stay. So the safest place for me to put those is in the belly of somebody else. Because one day they're going to have what I'm going to not have. And if you're the one that leads out in that value investment in your relationship, it'll always come back to you, right? Whether it's, Eckhart Tolle and the Secret, or, How to Win Friends and Influence People, Benjamin Franklin effect, like all of these things, right? Like call it what you want. These are like eternal truths about just humanity. Like that's what makes us different is we have larger brains. We understand, we can think about the future and remember more of the past. And like we can behave in a very civilized, benevolent way and benefit each other. I'll always be doing something, right? So there'll be something around that. Whether we've built Monumetric or we've sold it or we've sold it to our employees and started a co-op or something like that, like it'll be doing something like that. Hopefully that answers your question. I don't know. I guess the answer is I'll figure it out when we get there.
Well, and that I think that is a very proper answer for you because it holds true to what you just said, right? If you don't know, and why are we focusing on the exit before we're even we're just eating each meal each day, and we're just trying to figure that out and grow up. And I think too many entrepreneurs literally go into even the idea phase with the exit in mind. Like, I'm going to start this business so I can sell it at this point. Well, no, you have to actually build it. You have to. There's a lot of steps. And
think of the vanity metric. Yeah, think of the vanity metrics that entrepreneurs talk about, right? You get around a bunch of entrepreneurs, they talk about exits and multiples, exits and multiples, exits and multiples. And it's like, how many people's lives are better because you existed, right? Like, who did this business actually help? Right? It's like literally like behind those numbers, exit multiple, like you could have laid off 500 people and you don't care.
Mm-hmm.
You literally, like 500 people had to go find something to provide for their family. And to you, it's like, I got 6X, right? It's the highest multiple anybody in the industry's ever got. And it's like a badge of honor. It's like, I can't even wrap my head around like how far away you are from me in terms of like how you see humanity.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
It is. And I think as we get, our minds grow and we learn more, and you talk about, we learn about the past, we speculate to the future, we often get caught up and we don't think about the now, the day to day, the moments that count. Because we're so busy.
Right? But it's like, I think it's a good reminder for you and I, right? When we're done with this, like, let's go spend some time with our kids, right? Let's talk about their day. Let's talk about their day tomorrow. Tomorrow, like, take a little bit of extra time, because that's what your kids are going to remember. At the end of the day, like, that's probably the biggest impact you're going to have on the world is who your kids turn out to be.
Who you raise. Yep. It's true. Yeah. If
any brothers can marry a speech pathologist, highly recommend. Or become one. Or become one yourself, right?
Yeah, I was going to say, my both of us, when COVID happened and we were like, oh, we're now homeschooling, or here's what you got to teach them. Good luck. Man, my wife and I both do not have the heart of a teacher. Like, we're just like, oh, we got to get back to normal because this is killing us, and our kids are getting dumber because I'm their teacher. Yeah, but it is important to spend that time. We'll talk. But as far as one thing you did say, I want to bring up also, and this is directed more to the undergrads. These are your brothers. Treat them as such. Like, Nate has been my true brother since college. It's been 15. I would almost dare say it has been 15 years of some daily contact. And that doesn't mean we talk. That doesn't mean we specifically on the phone, video, or whatever. It literally is, let me send a joke to you, or let me send a quote or a scripture or what I'm doing. Hey, this is what I'm doing today. Because I value you in my life, and vice versa. The group of brothers that I have found myself with over the last 15 years have been truly transforming to who I am. And it's, again, we have college for 4 years, some of us 6. It's like, but like, that's such a short time. And yes, we interact, and yes, we influence each other, but don't let that go. There's no reason to let it go. We all have phones. We can keep track of our brothers moving forward. So I highly encourage that, because Nate has been a huge influence on my life because of that daily interaction. You talk about, just a simple, silly meme can change my upset day to a happy day. And that means a lot to me. So thank you. Thank you for that.
You mean a lot
for everything.
To me, brother.
Yeah.
Well, and it really is, like, I think one thing I didn't mention earlier, like, coming from a very, like, unrefined background from Bunkerville, like, going up on the third floor, like you, Nick Gordon, all of you guys come from much more sophisticated households, and like, you guys just were so much more advanced than I was in all of things in life. And I'll never forget, I was working on a committee with Nick Gordon, who was the first interview for this, and I had told him I was going to do something, and he followed up with me, and I hadn't done it. And all he said was, do what you say you're going to do. And I that was like branded in my brain. I was like, holy cow, like but he was like kind, and was like, hey, I'm just here to keep you accountable to what you said you would do. That's it. He wasn't a jerk. And I was like, man, that's leadership. Like, I've never even seen that in my life. And like, when you talk about like those lessons that we've learned from each other, there's just like thousands of little interactions where we're trying to help each other be better, right? We're not judging each other. We're not, trying to keep each other down. We literally want what's best for each other, and we're going to help and lift in any way that we can. And like, you've been such a huge blessing in my life, and can't thank you enough for your friendship. And it is like, when I think of like brother, like, yeah, I have 2 bio brothers, but like, I have like this way bigger circle in my brain of like, those are brothers. Those are brothers. Like, be there, drop of a hat. You need me in St. George right now? Like, I'll be there in 5 hours, man. If you need me, I'm there. And I know the same for you. And that's like you talk about like that text thread. Not like it's been, ponies and rainbows for all of us all the way to this point in life. There's times where we get on those and like, what family issues, like I think one of us has a father-in-law who's, was diagnosed with terminal cancer. And like the support and love that we share for that brother and show, and like that we're there. And like, we've had conversations, we've done, guys trips, all of those things, just like those relationships are real because we've invested so much in them. And like the caring and that we have for each other is like, it's just real. And that's like the best word I can put on it.
Yeah, it truly is. It really is. Speaking of children, my kid broken his arm under the door.
You got a broken arm?
No, he's like reaching. He's got a little bit of a gap. Anyways, to remind me, he's like, said we'd watch Cobra Kai. I want to watch Cobra Kai.
Nice.
The new season came out.
Yes.
Nate, thank you so much. Before we close this off, I want to give you the two closing questions. One, say something to your brothers that you haven't seen for 10 years. And then finish it up with what do you want to say to those undergrads that might chime in and glean one little bit of information if they didn't get anything else?
Yeah, I think to the old guys, I love you, always will. Like, I am who I am in large part because it's corny, but there's a quote from a musical theater called Wicked that says, "Because I knew you, I've been changed for good." And like, it really like, that song sticks out in my brain because like when I think of these relationships, like I'm permanently changed and I'm permanently a better person because I got to interface with you. And I still think about you all the time. Like, I bumped into Todd White on our flight back from San Francisco. We were at SaaStr together this week. I sat in the row behind him. I'm like, what the crap, Todd? And like, we started chatting and then we talked on the way out of the airport and like, we want to get back together. But I put this on the Facebook group as well. Like, I'm happy to host like a biannual thing. I'll smoke meat. I'll supply the food. Like, if we can just get people here, would love to catch up. Yeah, still love you guys. Like, nothing has changed for me. Younger brothers, right? Be the change you wish to see in your life at Utah State, everywhere you go. Lift everywhere you go. Any cause that's worth your time, show up with bells on and just lift. Like, man, that's like the easiest thing I could say. I say this all the time when I speak up at Utah State. Like, stop listening to music as like a hobby. Start putting like high-powered, intentional, like sophisticated things in your brain. Like, your brain is a well. You can't draw from it things that aren't in it. And so like listening to a book a week will do wonders for your life, right? And you just, when you're walking to class, when you're driving in your car, when like things, when you would just like sit and veg, like try putting on a book. If you want recommendations, shoot me a message. I also have a Google Drive with like almost 2 terabytes of audiobooks in it that you're welcome to, right? Read very broadly and very deeply. Very broad, very deep, and real insight comes from remote associations. And you never make these remote associations if you read like a T. You read a little bit here, and then like you majored in accounting. Good for you. What are you going to relate this to? You have nothing lateral to relate it to. If you read more like a square or a diamond, then you're able to make more remote associations. And that's where like real innovation comes from. So if you really want to progress any field, like just read super broadly. Read things that are very hard, that make you feel stupid. Right? Be in rooms where you're the dumbest person in the room. That's how you know you're in the right room. Same thing. Read books that make you feel dumb. And those are the right books.
Love it. That's what I'm agree with. Your ability to regurgitate quotes and books and paragraphs, like that's been hugely beneficial as we've just chatted throughout the last 10 years. You just like throw, oh, you should read this book when we bring up questions that are going on. But yeah, that was I don't think you ever said that to me back in college. I wish you would have. You probably did, and I just like, eh.
Asked, dude. I don't know if you ever asked.
I never did. That is my downfall. Is like, I learned all this stuff like 10 years later. What the heck? Yeah. But it's time and place.
This is my annual reading list. These are just hard copies. This is how far I am. I got so sidetracked that I have all of these left. And I don't know if I'm going to make it by the end of the year because I have all these. They get on all these tangents of reading things. So it just is what it is.
There's a lot of good content out there, and there's a lot of trash. See, your trick is you stopped watching Marvel. I'm a sucker for Marvel.
Yeah, I watch like a couple hours of sports every year. You just like got to a point where it's like, I don't know why I know so much about where this shortstop came from and, their batting average. It's like there's so much intellectual effort and space dedicated to things that just don't matter.
Yeah.
I don't know. But then you become like this, this curmudgeon old man that's always, barking and complaining about the world being unsophisticated and shallow. And so, man, that's where you're going to end up. So if you want to come join me, you can join me.
Whatever, it all comes down to how well your meat tastes, right?
Right.
How well that was smoked. Nate, thank you so much. I do look forward to that first little event we put together, and let me know in any way I could help you out. But yeah, I will.
Yeah, the alumni board reached out to me, and we'll start coordinating it. So just watch the Facebook group, and I think we'll probably try to get a text thread as well because Facebook isn't what it used to be, and just don't get on it very often. So, but certainly any undergrads, if you're interested in business, entrepreneurship, philosophy, any of those things, if I can give you any life advice, career advice, shop my LinkedIn, if I can connect with anybody, help you in any way, super happy to do so. So please reach out.
Okay. With that, I'm gonna finish this, but Nate, thank you so much for your time. Sunday night, you got to go play with the kids before they
got to give this kid a bed.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, love you, brother.
All right, love you too.
See you, man. Take care.